Hi, Jesse. It's good to finally meet you. I'm Ben Black, one of your GSIs, and I know I got that email from you where you had some questions about iteration in C++. Um, were there any specific problems you wanted to go over, or specific code you wanted to look at, or were you looking for more of a general overview? Okay, totally fine. We can just do a general overview. So, generally, iteration, we often just refer to them as loops. There are two types that are mostly used, and those are while loops and for loops. So while loops, here's kind of a generic pseudocode, while, um, and then followed by some kind of expression. It's usually it is a conditional expression. As long as what's in here is true, then it will continue to loop. And so while loops are really good for Boolean-based things or combinations of multiple variables that need to be true or whatever. And that's what while is really good for. Then you have a little bit more of a specialized loop, and that's the for loop. And so in the for loop, you have three parts that are inside the parentheses. And so first, you have some kind of variable. I initialize usually inside the for loop, so int x equals 0. Then you have the semicolon, and then you have your condition. And this condition should be some kind of numerical, x is less than this, x equals this, x whatever. And so in this case, x is less than 10. And then another semicolon, x plus plus. X plus plus meaning at the end of this loop, or afterwards, x will increase in value by 1. And so in this case, just a quick aside, int x equals 0, x is less than 10, that will run 10 times. This is the form that I usually use. Some people like to do int x equals 1, x is less than or equal to 10, but I think this, once you get used to starting at 0 instead of starting at 1, it's really not that bad, and that's a pretty important computer science thing to do, is to start at 0 as your first indexed value. So there's a couple different uses. You'll use them in various forms along the way. Here's an example of a quick example of a for loop. I actually have nested for loops, so you can put loops inside of other loops. And in this case, so I have an x variable and a y variable, and they're both going to count up to 10. You can kind of think of this like an array, a two-dimensional array. Maybe, like you have rows and some columns of some kind of item, let's say apples. Okay, so you have a 10 by 10 setup of apples, 10 by 10 array of apples. And so this will go, so the first loop will be my x-coordinate, or my horizontal coordinate, and then my y will be my vertical coordinate. And so what happens is we'll enter into this. We'll start at the 0th element in the x row, or in the x. I guess I would say that's, yeah. And then we'll do this all the way until it gets back to 10. Okay, up to 10. So you'll go vertically down as you will, because the x will be 0. So you'll be 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. Then we come back up to the top. And now x is going to be equal to 1, and it recreates this for loop because that went out of memory because it finished. And now we'll do 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, etc. And so then you can get across your entire array. If you wanted to change something, if you wanted to look at it or copy the value or something like that, these are some inefficient ways to do it, but you can do it this way. Meanwhile, so here's an example of the while loop. So here I created, you can kind of, this is like a really bad code for like sleeping of your like devices. And so here you can see time equals 0, bool is on equals true, so you have the screen on, right? Then we go into this while loop, and as long as it's on and time is less than 5,000, then we're just going to probably then we're going to increment the counter, basically. There probably should be something like that if you touch it or whatever, and some kind Well, that will be inside the while loop. If it senses something, then it will reset the timer, right? And so then you keep doing that until finally time equals 5,000. So then that's no longer true. So then this whole statement is no longer true. So then it'll turn off the screen, time will be reset to 0, and is_on will be set to false. And so it won't be in that loop anymore. So that's an example when you would use something like a while loop, where you have kind of a combination of factors and you wanted to make sure that, okay, when this and this, or this or this, while loops are good for that because it's used as a conditional statement that can involve other things besides just number values. And so that is while loops and for loops. If you have any, do you have any questions? Do you want to do some practice problems? We can look up some on the internet. We can make up some ourselves. No big deal. Okay, that sounds great. Thanks.